My father was a lighthouse keeper. My mother was a queen. But life has a way of bringing people together.
He could unite our worlds one day.
Check it out. Arthur is talking to the fish.
They made me what I am. Permission to come aboard?
I've been looking for you. Your half-brother, King Orm, is about to declare war upon the surface world.
The only way to stop this war is for you to take your rightful place as king.
Trust me, I am no king.
You do your best thinking when you're not thinking at all.
That was the worst pep talk ever.
Might want to strap in. Welcome home.
My brother has come from the surface to challenge me for the throne.
I call it an ass whooping. I'm no leader. I came because I had no choice. I came to save my home and the people that I love.
You think you're unworthy to lead because you're of two different worlds. But that is exactly why you are worthy.
That was awesome.
The war is coming to the surface, and I'm bringing the wrath of the seven seas with me.
What are you doing? Wait.
You should have a parachute.
Redheads! You gotta love them.
Hey everybody, it's Charlie. We gotta break down this Aquaman footage. I call that an ass whooping. So there's just so much stuff going on here, so we'll just go through it shot by shot. But they're kind of selling you on the Indiana Jones romancing the stone vibe that James Wan was talking about. So obviously you have the Aquaman Mira romance going on in the background because she'll eventually become Queen of Atlantis. But the main idea of the film is that Aquaman has to find the original trident that was wielded by Atlan so that he can unite the seven seas against Orm and stop the war with the surface world that Orm is trying to precipitate during the film. So if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the Comic-Con videos. I'll post my Shazam trailer in a little while too. I was in the middle of working on that when this dropped. So Warner Brothers is just like the trailer fairy, just dropping footage left and right today. The trailer just starts out with a version of his origin story, how his mother, played by Nicole Kidman, found his father. The lighthouse, also right out of the comics too. This is basically the place where he grows up as a child. You may also recognize that his father's being played by Jango Fett from Star Wars, also Boba Fett and all the clones from Clone Wars, because they're all a clone of this one person. They said the film would explain why his mother did have to go back to Atlantis, but you have to imagine that Atlantis is the capital of the seven different kingdoms because Atlantis is the name of the city, which looks fantastic, but it's also the name of the nation that's made up of the seven different kingdoms. Like they say, unite the seven. So you have to imagine that it's a pretty volatile political situation between the seven different kingdoms because they all have their own different kings that all have their different agendas. Aquaman's mother was queen at the time, so she had to take the throne to keep everything from boiling over and prevent a war with the surface world that later Orm, her other son, Aquaman's half-brother, tries to bring about. So if you don't know the story behind how Orm and Aquaman are brothers, so you see in the beginning of the trailer, she falls in love with the human, they have a child, that's Aquaman, then she's forced to go back because she has to be queen. Atlantis would fall apart without a ruler, so she's forced to marry an Atlantean because it's just their custom. She has a child with that person. That boy was Orm, so he grows up to be the heir to the throne, but because Aquaman is the firstborn son, he's the true heir, but he doesn't want to have anything to do with Atlantis because Atlantis views him as a half-breed. You're less than nothing. The surface world thinks he's a freak. You get that with a lot of these flashbacks when he's a child, like he's in the aquarium and all the sharks and the fish start to mass behind him, just freaking all the other kids out. The other really big thing here too is you see a version of Black Manta's origin story. So the whole big scene where he jumps into the submarine, permission to come aboard, and takes them all out, that's Black Manta and his father's crew. I'm guessing that he ends up killing Black Manta's father inadvertently. That's probably why Manta swears revenge. But James Wan did say that Manta gets his comic book costume that we see later in the trailer, which is totally badass, from Atlantean technology given to him by Orm. So obviously Orm doesn't care about the surface world, he doesn't really care about Black Manta, but he's trying to play both sides against each other. So he's trying to get people from the surface world who will do anything to kill Aquaman to do his dirty work for him, while he's also massing the 7 different kingdoms that you see all massed up here. You see a bunch of the Atlanteans riding sharks. These people riding the seahorses are the forces of Zebel. So that's where Mira's from. Her father is played by Dolph Lundgren. He's playing Nearest from the comics. This is actually what his helmet looks like. It's a pretty good shot of it. But you also get a better shot of the people from Trench, which is just total creature from the Black Lagoon. You get a look at the people of Brine, which is one of the other kingdoms. They're the crustacean-looking people. Like I've talked about in my other videos, when Atlantis sank about 5,000 years ago, the 7 different kingdoms evolved in different ways, some devolved. The people that devolved were the ones that live in Trench, so that's why they look so crazy. They explained that Atlanteans can't travel there. It actually hurts Aquaman to swim down there at that pressure depth. But the other people, like the Fisher King here, which is played by Djimon Hounsou, who appears as the wizard during the Shazam trailer, which I'll talk about later today, they evolved to become more aquatic-like. So that's why they fully look like mer people. But the big MacGuffin is the comic book trident that belonged to Atlan. So they explained that the quindent that he's been wielding since Batman v Superman belonged to his mother. So if you ever wondered why it's not classic comic book yet, it's because this belonged to his mother. They're searching for the one that belonged to the original king, who's Aquaman's ancestor. And that's who you're seeing right here. They have a vision of him during the film. This is like the Indiana Jones treasure hunt aspect of the movie. That's how we get to the path of him getting his comic book armor, which you get a pretty good shot of in this promo art here. So this is what he's going to look like at the end of the film in whatever sequels that he pops up in. This is them doing their trial by combat. I know Jason Momoa, Khal Drogo, Game of Thrones, make all the Game of Thrones jokes that you want, but this is happening near an active volcano. That's why you see this hot lava in the background. But we gotta talk about the way they're doing the special effects here. So this is what it looks like when they're underwater. I think it's a much better version than what we saw during Justice League, because they can just talk to each other. You don't have to worry about the air bubbles. The funny thing they said too is when they were shooting this is that the actors were dry, because when you're underwater, you don't actually look wet. When they film scenes where Mira does have to create air bubbles though, and there's air passing over them, they had to hose the actors down. So fun filmmaking fact, when all these scenes were happening, when they're like fighting each other, all the actors were dry and they just tuned everything up with special effects a little bit because they wanted to make him feel like a badass. And everybody points to the Aquaman riding a seahorse as being really silly. They wanted to make him feel really cool. They gave him a dragon to ride during the film. So Khal Drogo finally gets a dragon, but only in the Aquaman movie. But you have to imagine that once he does get his comic book armor and the trident of Poseidon or Atlan, whatever they're going to call it during the film, there are multiple tridents that he wields in the comics, that he'll be even more OP, so that yeah, he definitely is the most powerful person on the planet as long as he's near water. But let me know in the comments what you think about the look of the movie, what you think about the feel of the characters, and the fact that they're reusing some music from the previous DC films. I think that's to give it a sense of continuity, but this is taking place after the events of Justice League. My Shazam trailer should be up in a little while, so just look out for that. As long as you have alerts enabled for my channel, you should see everything. Click here for that video. I'll update the link when I post it, and click here to learn all about the Venom footage from last night too. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.